Shri Patmatmane Namaham. Devotees Jai Sita Ram. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our Sunday morning service. This beautiful, oh no, what's today? July 19th. I'd like to welcome you all in. I ask that we all please go ahead and clear our minds, focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we start with this wonderful bhajan. स्वागत सब जन इस मंदिर हो, भक्ति की स्वाति की धार, सुंदर सुमधुर गान हमारो, रंजन सब नर नार। ईश सगुण निर्गुण विनाशी, माता पिता रारुयार। ईश सगुण निर्गुण विनाशी, माता पिता रारुयार। तोर बाएं हम वास्त सदाही, तोर भाई हम वास्त सदाही, तार हमें संसार। स्वागत सब जन इस मंदिर हो, भक्ति की स्वाति की दार, सुंदर सुमधुर गान हमारो, रंजन सब नर नार। सनातन धर्म राम राम भावे, वेद प्रकाश अलखार। सनातन धर्म राम राम भावे, वेद प्रकाश अलखार। कांड पखंड ओतल खावे, कांड पखंड ओतल खावे, ज्ञान जगत उजियार। स्वागत सब जन इस मंदिर हो, भक्ति की स्वाति की धार, सुंदर सुमधुर गान हमारो, रंजन सब नर नार। रंजन सब नर नार, रंजन सब नर नार। Devotees, at this time I ask that we all please clasp our hands, close our eyes, focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we commence with our prayers for this morning. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnata Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Ishavasyam Midam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tena Bhunjita Magrudhakasya Swidhanam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma vidhushavahe. Hari Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om. Devotees ask that we all please join together now as we commence in chanting the most powerful Gayatri Mantra. Om Magakshe Varade Devi Akshare Brahmavadini Gayatri Jagat Matar Vishwayoni Namostute. Om Bhuri Bhuvaswa Tat Savitur Bharenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Bhuri Bhuvaswa Tat Savitur Bharenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Bhuri Bhuvaswa Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Hari Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Prem Samur Gayatri Mata Ki Jai. Devotees ask that we all join together now as we offer prayers to the destroyer of all obstacles in our life and in this universe as we offer prayers to Lord Ganesh. Om Shri Ganganapate Namaham. Om Yajananam Bhutaghanadhi Sevitam Kapita Jambu Palachara Bhakshanam Umasutam Shoka Vinashakarakam Namami Viganeshwara Pada Pankajam. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirviganam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Raksha Raksha Gadadaksham Rakshatre Lokya Rakshakar Bhaktanam Bhayam Karta त्रता भव भवार्णवाद. Om Shriman Mahaganadipate Namah. Prem se Bolo Ganesh Bhagwan ki jai. Devotees, as we continue to focus our minds on the feet of Lord Ganesh, I ask that we all please join together in singing this beautiful bhajan. And as we sing and we focus on Ganapati Bhagwan, we ask, O Ganapati Bhagwan, please remove all of those obstacles that I may occur this week, next week, and all other weeks. The physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional obstacles. I ask that you bless me. I ask that you sanctify me and help me overcome any difficulties in my life as we sing together. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha Deva, Mata Jaki Parvati Pita Mahadeva. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha Deva, Mata Jaki Parvati Pita Mahadeva. Ladawana Bhoga Lage Santa Kare Seva, Ladawana Bhoga Lage Santa Kare Seva. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha Deva, Mata Jaki Parvati Pita Mahadeva. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha Deva, Mata Jaki Parvati Pita Mahadeva. Ekadanta Dayavanta Chara Bhujadhari, Ekadanta Dayavanta Chara Bhujamhari, Mata ke Sindura Sohe Musa ke Savari, Dukyo ke Dukka Harata Paramananda Deva. Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha Deva, Mata Jaki Parvati Pita Mahadeva. अंधन को आँख देते कोरियन को काया, अंधन को आँख देते कोरियन को काया, बंजन की पुत्र देते निर्धन को माया, भवस भर करो नत भजन करो तेरा. जय गणेश, जय गणेश, जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा. जो तेरा ध्यान करो ज्ञान मिले उसको, जो तेरा ध्यान करो ज्ञान मिले उसको, चोर तुझे और भला जाऊं मैं किसको. हे देव कृपा करो कष्ट हरो मेरा. जय गणेश, जय गणेश, जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा. लडवन का भोग लगे संत करे सेवा, लडवन का भोग लगे संत करे सेवा. जय गणेश, जय गणेश, जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा. जय गणेश, जय गणेश, जय गणेश देवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा. माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा, माता जाकी पार्वती पिता महादेवा. Devotees, as we continue on with our prayers for today, I ask that we all please focus our minds on the feet of that universal mother and that destroyer of all evils in our life as we offer prayers and obediences to Adi Shakti Durga Mata. Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadra Kali Kapalini Durga Kshama Shiva Dhatri Swaha Swadha Namostute. Jai Tvam Devi Chamunde, Jai Potarte Niharini, Jai Sarvagate Devi, Kalaratri Namostute. Adevi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Mayebdi Shamditha, Namastasye, Namastasye, Namastasye Namo Namah. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Buddhi-rupena samstita, Namastasye, Namastasye, Namastasye Namo Namah. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Lakshmi-rupena samstita, Namastasye, Namastasye, Namastasye Namo Namah. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti-rupena samstita, Namastasye, Namastasye, Namastasye Namo Namah. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shraddha-rupena samstita, Namastasye, Namastasye, Namastasye namo nama. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu Shanti rupena samstita. Namastasye, namastasye, namastasye namo nama. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu Tushti rupena samstita. Namastasye, namastasye, namastasye namo nama. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu Daya rupena samstita. Namastasye, namastasye, namastasye namo nama. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu Matri rupena samstita. Namastasye, namastasye, namastasye namo nama. Dehi saubhagyam arogyam, Dehi me paramam sukham, Rupam Dehi Jayam Dehi, Yasho Dehi Tvasho Jahi. Om Prem Smarwadi Shakti Durga Mata Ki Jai. Devotees, as we continue on, we now offer prayers to that sustainer of all righteousness in this universe, that sustainer of all things dharmic. We offer prayers to Bhagwan Vishnu. Om Shantakaram Bhujaghayayanam Bhadmanabham Surisham Vishwadharam Gagana Satrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam. Om Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Bhiradhyanagamyam Vande Vishnu Bhavabhayaharam Sarvaloke Kanatam. Om Sashanka Chakram Sakiritha Kundhalam Sapita Vastram Sarasiruhekshanam Sahara Vakshastala Shobikostu Bhashriyam Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturabhujam. Namami Vishnu Shirasa Chaturabhujam. Om Prem se Bolo Vishnu Bhagwan ki Jai. And finally, devotees, we offer prayers to that universal Father and that universal Guru. We offer prayers to that destroyer of all evils in our life and in this universe. We offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Om Namaha Shivaya. Om Namaha Shivaya. Om Namaha Shivaya. Om Harapurang Haurang Karunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujagindraharam Sadhavasantam Hirdayarduvinde Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami. Om Namaha Shivaya. Devotees, we offer this next prayer for all the suffering from various illnesses, diseases, injuries, and ailments. We ask that they have a fast, speedy, and full recovery. We also offer a prayer for those transitioning from this world to the next. May the passage be a smooth and tranquil one. Om Dhrayambakam Yajamehe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarokamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamehe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarokamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamehe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarokamiva Bandhanat Mrityurmukshyo Mamrutat. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Kartikeya Namaha. Om Nandishwaraya Namaha. Om Vasukiye Namaha. Om Shri Samba Sadha Shivaya Namaham. Prem se Bolo Shiva Shankara Bhagwan ki Jai. Devotees, before we commence on with our sermon for today, we will have one bhajan before we move on.
Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Brahma Murari Surarchitalingam Nirmal Bhasit Shobhitalingam Janmaj Dukha Vinashakalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Deva Muni Praravarchitalingam Kamadaham Karunakaraling Ravana Darpa Vinashanalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Sarva Sugandhi Sulepitalingam Buddhi Vivardhana Karanalingam Siddha Sura Suravandhitalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Kanaka Mahamani Bhushitalingam Phanipati Veshtita Shobhitalingam Daksha Suyagna Vinashanalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Kuma Kuma Chandana Lepitalingam Pankajahar Sushobhitalingam Sanchit Papa Vinashanalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Devaganarchit Sevitalingam Bhavar Bhakti Bhire Vachalingam Dinakar Ko
pranamami sada shivalingam. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya.
अष्टदलो परिवेष्टितलिङ्गं सर्वसमुद्भवकारणलिङ्गम् अष्टदरिद्रविनाशनलिङ्गं तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya,
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Suraguru Suravara Pujitalingam Suravana Pushpa Sadarchitalingam Padatapadam Paramatmakalingam Tat Pranamami Sada Shivalingam Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya,
Om Namah Shivaya 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Lingashtakam idam punyam यः पतेत् शिवसनिधौ शिवलोकमवाप्नोति शिवेन सह मोदते.
Devotees, before we commence with our sermon today, I ask that for all of us who have a guru, we join together and we offer a prayer to our guru. If not, then I ask we take Lord Shiva in our mind as the universal guru, as we join together and pray. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Prem se bolo Gurudeo ki jai. Devotees, 2 weeks ago we had ended on verse 11 in chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagvat Gita. Remember, chapter 4 is known as transcendental knowledge. Knowledge that transcends time, the information that we pass down from generation to generation. We ended off with this very wonderful verse, which is verse 11, in which Bhagwan Shri Krishna states to Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Yeya tamam prapadyante tamsthataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante Manusya Bharta Saravasa Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagwan Shri Krishna tells Arjuna, O Arjuna, and remember last time we said, what can God do to serve you? How can you get God to serve you? How can you get God to be on your side? How can you get Bhagwan to be on your side? He says, in whichever way a person renders service to me, I serve him in that same way. Everyone follows my path in all respects. I find this to be very powerful in the sense that what Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying is that if you serve me, I will serve you. And I think that's very poetic. I think it's poetic for two reasons. If you treat somebody with hatred, how will they treat you back? With hatred, most likely. But if you treat somebody with love and kindness, then they'll treat you with love and kindness. So we look at it in two aspects. We look at it in the aspects of good emotions and good things in the world, and bad emotions and bad things in the world. I also think it's poetic in the sense that two people can exchange words of hate, like in a debate. You know, we watch the Democratic debates and the Republican debates, any political debate. But do those two people necessarily have to be enemies at the end of the debate? No. I mean, I watched debate team in high school. We've had Socratic seminars in English in high school and in college. A Socratic seminar is when everybody reads a book and then you sit down in a circle and you talk about what the meaning of the book is. Two of us can have different ideas about what the meaning of the book is, but at the same time, we don't have to walk out of that room hating each other because our ideals, our thoughts, the way we interpret something is different. So Bhagwan Krishna is never going to hate you. He's never going to feel disdain towards you, but what he's saying is if you want him to serve you, you must serve him appropriately. That's very poetic. It's a two-way street. But he goes on to say things about this transcendental knowledge and yoga and karma and things we need to know. He goes on to tell Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Kankshanta Karmanam Sindhim, Yajanta iha devata ksi pramhemanu se loke siddhir bhavati karmaja chaturvanyam maya srastam guna karma vibhaghasa tasya kartaram apimam vidya kartaram avyayam namam karmani limpanti Name karma phale spraha iti mamyo bhijanati karma bhirna sabhadhyate Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. He goes on to tell Arjuna, those who desire the fruits of their activities in this world worship the devotas. Thus the results of their fruit of work are quickly achieved. So he goes on to say that if you perform your works, your prescribed duty, your karma, your fruits, the fruits of your action will be achieved. It's not something that you should actively look for, but if you continue to worship Bhagwan, if you do that with devotion in your heart, the fruits of your actions will be achieved. I think that applies to really anything that we look at in life. Any work that we do. If I'm going to dig a hole in my yard, let's say I'm going to make a fountain in my yard, and I dig that hole, but I only put about 10% of the work that I really need to put. I just dig a shallow hole, I don't line it, it's just dirt, and I pour water into it. What kind of fountain is that? It's just a mud pit. But if I give my entirety to that, if I give my full devoted action to that, and I dig that hole, I round it out, I pad out the earth, I line it with the pads, I fill it and I seal it. Maybe I line it with some nice tile. I pour the water and I put a pump in. Now I have a beautiful creation. He goes on to say that the fourfold system of this world, the caste system, creating Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaisas, and Shudras, was created by me according to the divisions of quality, guna, and work, karma. the quality of work that we perform, the different kinds of work we perform. Although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am immutable and the non-doer, and that I am not the direct instigator. Karma can never bind me because I have no desire for its fruits. Those who know this truth about me are also never bound by their activities. What Bhagwan Krishna is trying to say here is not know about me, but know that I have no desire from the fruits of performing specific actions. We talk about this specific example all the time. When you donate to charity and you look forward to getting that receipt for the tax break at the end of the year, it's not necessarily you donating to a good cause. There's selfish intent behind that. We all do it. We all want to get that receipt at the end of the year that helps us figure out how much money we're going to get back from the government. I understand that. But at the same time, if we say we're going to perform a charitable act, remember that a charitable act is something you do for the benefit of others that's not supposed to be for the benefit of you. You want to make sure that others out in the world are living happier today than they were yesterday, happier this second than they were the previous second, all while not trying to reap the benefits. It's a little difficult in some instances to understand and how that works too. When we give incentives to employees, and we see this all the time, for those of us who work in corporations, a bonus at the end of the year, maybe an extra set of money, cheaper healthcare insurance. We perform those incentives not necessarily for the benefits of the employees sometimes, but for the benefit of the company. Because if we give those employees those benefits, if we provide them with those extra things, in our head mentality we say, oh, we're giving them so much, they're going to work harder for us. Remember that those things don't necessarily equate. If you're going to do something good for your employees, if you have the wholehearted intent of doing something good for your employees, don't look for the benefit that comes out of it for you. The benefit should come to them. So you're not looking for the fruits of those actions. Sometimes we do provide those incentives to get our employees to work harder. Sometimes we do group accountability. I don't know if, I don't know, my dad can't see me right now, but in the military, I think sometimes, and Dad, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were working with your unit and one of you fails, do all of you fail? Yeah, and everybody gets punished? Sometimes? Sometimes. So we've seen that before, where there's group accountability. And so we try to bring the group up. We try to have those actions have group accountability. If one of us fails, we all fail. We all get punished. We all get a pay cut. We all have to do push-ups. We all have to run those 2 miles. So what Bhagwan Krishna is saying is, don't understand me as being great and absolute and the creator of everything. See me as a person who has karma, who has actions, who can perform akarma, non-action, but who also never looks for the fruits of those actions. If you recognize that truth within me, if you accept that truth, and if you apply that truth to yourself, you will never be bound to this world. You will achieve liberation. You will achieve moksha. But he goes on to answer more a little bit of Arjuna's question from earlier. Because Arjuna's question specifically was, how can I know that you said all of this information to me? Or how can I know that the information that you're saying to me today, you said to Suryanarayan Bhagwan, to the original kings? How do I know that that's all true? So he goes on to say in verses 15 and 16 to Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Evam Jnatva Krit Karma Purabher api muk subhi Guru karam aiva tasmatvam Purve purvataram kritam Kim karma kima karmiti Kavayopya atra mohita Tatke karma pravaksyami Yajnatva moksyase subhat Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
He says that even the seekers of liberation in the ancient times, those who were trying to escape this cycle of births and deaths, who understood my teachings in this way, perform their prescribed duty simply to set the standard for common men. Therefore, you should also perform your karma, following the example of those predecessor authorities. What he's saying here is that back in the day, very long ago, people would perform their prescribed actions in relation to how they feel God performed his prescribed actions. Because what they wanted to do was set the example for the common man. We say the word common man very loosely. The way I look at it is a child learning from their parents. If you want the child to live a certain way, you must also live that certain way. If you go about, even me, as I would say well, I'm a pundit figure in the community, but I'm also an older brother figure to some of the other younger members here in the Mandir. I'm also an uncle. I almost said aunt and uncle. I'm also an uncle to two of them. If I act a certain way, if I lash out at every single situation, or if I sit up there and I say, don't even bother asking a question, just listen to what I say and do what I tell you to do, what impression is that giving to the children, to those younger people? The impression I'm giving to them is that when they get older, you have the right to say everything that you want, and everything that you want to say is right, and the younger generation does not have a voice. And I don't believe that to be true. I'll always get on to kids when they do something wrong and say, all right, let's talk about what just happened. What went wrong? What did you do wrong? And I'll have them verbalize it. Because the only way that we learn about a mistake or learn why there was a situation is if we talk about it. So some kids will come up and they'll help out with Howlin. And then they'll try to light a match. And they'll watch how different people try to strike a match, and they'll try to emulate that. Now, in my opinion, the safe way is to hold the box, hold the match perpendicular to the box, and strike straight. But then you see some other people hold the match directly down towards the box and strike downwards. When you strike a match downwards and that flame lights, which direction does that flame go? It goes straight up. And what's straight above that? Your fingers. So kids are very observant. If they watch an adult strike a match like that, guess what they're going to try to do? That same thing. Now, a child is not necessarily as confident as an adult who's burned themselves many times. So what happens to that child? They burn their fingers. That match lights, they throw the match away. And then we yell at them, why did you do that? Don't ever let them light the match again. Well, it's not about the fact that they messed up. It's about the fact that they emulated what they saw in us, and now we're punishing them for that because they didn't have the experience. So something as simple, we think something as simple as lighting a match should be easy, but it's actually pretty complicated. And when somebody messes it up, we get angry because fire can be dangerous. So what he's saying here is that the ancient kings would perform duties in the same way that I, Bhagwan Krishna, and all the devas would perform duties so that the common man would emulate those. Remember, lighting a match. Child will emulate how we do that. And if they burn themselves and we yell at them for that, what kind of emotion is that perpetuating? It's perpetuating fear because they want to be like the older people. They want to be like the adults. As the youngest, one of the youngest in my family, I always wanted to be like the older ones because we emulate. But if you don't set a good example for those, for the younger generation, they grow up maybe not to be so righteous. He says, even men of high intelligence become bewildered in their efforts to determine what is karma and what is akarma, what is action and what is non-action. I shall therefore explain karma to you, knowing which you will become liberated from the bondage of karma. So this is great. In verse 16, in chapter 4 of the Bhagvat Gita, Bhagwan Krishna is going to give us the answer that frees us from the bondage of this world. Isn't that great? The scripture gives us the answer. He goes on to say to Arjuna, very specifically, very, very specifically, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Karmano hyapi bodhyavam bodhyayam cha vikarmana akarmanascha bodhyayam gahana karmogha iti karamanya akarmaya pasyed akarmani cha karmaya Sabudhiman manusyesu sayukta kritsna karma krit yasya sarve samarambha kama samkalpa varjita jnanak nidagdha karmanam tam ahu panditam budham tyaktva karma phala sangham nitya tripto nirashraya karmanye abhipravritto vinayvam kimchit karot saha Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna
Sharanam Mama
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagwan Shri Krishna states that the intricacies of karma are very hard to understand. He gives you three words: karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma itself is the actions that we perform, our prescribed duties. Akarma is not doing anything, it's non-action. Vikarma is specifically action that goes against your prescribed duties, or the inappropriate actions. He says that these three things should be distinctly understood, for the principle of karma is profound. The principle of our prescribed duties, of actions, is profound. One who sees action and non-action and action is truly wise among men and transcendentally situated, even though he performs all sorts of actions. This is where when I read it the first time, I was like, what's happening here? He just told me he was going to give me the answer to everything, and then he told me actions and non-action and non-actions and action. So what am I supposed to do? And it took me a second to kind of come up with an analogy to this. There's a balance in this world that we have to attain. There's a balance in this world that we have to find and to achieve. I equate this to the situation of somebody who is a follower and someone who is a leader. The analogy here is that a great follower should also be a great leader. But a great leader is also a great follower. I talk about this in the sense that I've been in multiple positions in which I've had leaders. And those leaders will either listen to me or they won't listen to me. In one position I had, it was toxic, in the sense that every time I told my boss something, every time I told them that this needed to be changed or this needed to be done, even though I was slightly new at the job, I got pushed off. Now, keep in mind, my expertise at the time was supposed to be data analytics, researching, providing numbers to prove a case. But when I came with something I felt was relevant, I was told that it's irrelevant. So everything that I said got shrugged off. I wasn't listened to. And I can tell you there's a few times in which the information that I provided should have been used. I wasn't right all the time. I understood that. Or all the time, all the data I provided wasn't going to be as beneficial. But there were times that it's important to listen. Now, in my current job, I have a set of leaders. They're very strict in some aspects. They're very dedicated to their job. But I can tell you there's not one point in time I don't feel like they haven't listened to me. I think I said that correct. Every time I go to them with a situation, they hear me out. They coach me. They guide me. But most importantly, they ask me this question: what do you think you could change to make it better? So instead of giving me the answer, they're guiding me towards an answer. They're helping me find that answer from within. Now, if I have an issue with something they're doing and I go and tell them, because we've had issues in our department before, I'll go and tell them, I'll say, hey, I see that this process is broken. How we launch this thing is broken. And they say, okay, can you provide me the evidence? Show me where exactly it broke and how it broke. I provide it, of course, because you need to provide that sort of stuff. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll go back and fix it. And every single time, they keep good to their word. They listen, they go back and fix. So when Bhagwan Shri Krishna is saying that one sees action and non-action and action, and that person is truly wise, he's saying that person can achieve moksha. Now, what does he mean by saying action and non-action? I'm going to use Mahatma Gandhi as a good example. He would sit down, he would meditate, and he would protest. He wouldn't do anything other than meditate. He would sit there and silently protest. He wouldn't say a single thing. So in an instance, how is this doing something to change? But what a truly liberated soul and mind sees is that is an action of the most powerful nature. Him sitting down, him silently, peacefully protesting, even though he did take action outside, even though he did take action to help free the country, the inactions that he performed were just as strong. When we talk about finding non-action and action, that means sometimes we do what we feel is the right thing, but for the wrong reason. Or we're performing something fruitlessly. I'm about to throw my dad under the bus on this situation. But on the side of the house, we had a bunch of rocks. And this was during the time of my sister's wedding. And at that time, we had a construction crew come in because they were leveling the backyard, making it flat so we could have the wedding back there. So, in accordance, my dad asked them, because he wanted to make that area just cement. He took all those rocks and he put them in the backyard outside of the gate. A week later, he told us that we had to take all of those rocks, put them into a wheelbarrow, and cart them to the other side of the yard to fill in the other area. And my brother and I were like, why? Why did we create the additional work? I still don't know to this day why we created the additional work, right? But in my head, I didn't see the action to it. Now, at the end of the day, it made me healthier. It made me stronger. You know, I'm a young, strapping gentleman. But there's going to be instances in which we perform actions that we don't see why they make sense. So, to see non-action and action means that you are performing something, but there's no true reason to it. Now, that's why I said I threw my dad under the bus, because I didn't have an example to save him from that one. But that's probably me as his son just being, you know, a little stinker and not understanding. But we see this in some instances too. We see this in other instances too. I've seen in the workplace where we take extra steps to do something, thinking it's the right thing that needs to be done, but doesn't have a positive impact on the patient, or actually has no impact on the patient. There's an example that we have in some healthcare things where people will label things with a sticker. Mom's probably seen this before too, on syringes and specific devices, maybe catheters. You'll see a sticker on there. And that sticker has a color, and that color is supposed to represent something. Now, we leave it up to the front line to remember in their heads, what does that color mean? What do you need to do with that color? And sometimes they'll forget. So we're taking all of these actions, we're taking all of these steps to help prevent a situation, then we're forcing people to remember what those things mean without giving them a proper guide, and then they mess it up. So we perform all of this action for what? For nothing. We don't have the action that was meant to be there. So we do all of this stuff, we don't get the results out of it. He goes on to say, Bhagwan Sri Krishna goes on to say, after all this, if you understand that, and it's still hard to understand too. Still hard to understand. But he whose every action is free from hankering of pleasure, having burnt all fruit of desires in the fire of pure knowledge, is called a pandita by the wise. Now, when I say pandita or pandit, I don't mean me. Pandit means educated person. They're a teacher. It's a person who's learned. Yes, I do have the title of pandit, but I don't consider myself fitting in this description. Not necessarily. I know facts about things, but I'm still learning in this life. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to understand. Serena and I will have discussions all the time about something that I said or she said and one of us don't understand. And rather than just getting into an argument about it, we sit down and we have an educated discussion, but that still shows that we don't have all the knowledge in this world. One who has renounced attachment to the fruits of karma, who is always blissful within, and who is not dependent on anyone for his maintenance, does not act, though fully engaged in all types of karma. So somebody who remains happy on the inside does not need to act, maybe doesn't act in every situation, but still performs actions. That's why this is so hard. Inner peace and inner happiness is very difficult to attain. And you want to know when a majority of people attain that inner peace and inner happiness, if they're lucky? Right before they're about to pass. Maybe they're in the older category and they say they have no regrets. But I've seen people who are older who said, I wish I had done this a different way in life. I wish I'd done that a different way in life. I have regrets in this world. And so therefore they're in turmoil. I can't find that inner peace. And that makes it that much harder for them to attain moksha. But then you find others who find that inner peace in life, who renounce the actions, who understood that the past is the past. It's not something we can change. I have to live in today, and I have to accept the mistakes that were made. And I still have to make my influence in the world. So Bhagwan Shri Krishna just gave you the answer. Understand that there's action and non-action and action. Don't hold on to the fruits of this world, but instead have inner peace. Don't have anybody else do that for you. Today, you can say that you have inner peace. Tomorrow, I can't guarantee that. Tomorrow, you may wake up and stub your toe on the side of the bed. Inner peace is gone. Tomorrow, you may wake up and find out that your friend from work got let go. Inner peace is gone. When I woke up yesterday morning and I saw the news that John Lewis had passed away, my inner peace was gone. A very influential figure in the civil rights community. A very devout speaker to his beliefs. When we wake up every morning, it's very hard for us to find that inner peace, especially with everything we see in the news. I think my cell phone, this thing right over here that's hidden behind the harmonium, I think this for me is probably the most dangerous thing. And the reason for that is because when I wake up in the morning, because I'm so connected to the world, I see not only all the good, but all the bad. And when I look at my media feed, my social media feed, when I go to the news apps that are on there, what do you typically see first? Not, silly giraffe saves puppies from drowning in reservoir. The first thing you see is all the bad things that happened in the news. This person got shot. These people got hurt. This person got killed. So for us to find inner peace in this world today, known as Kali Yuga, the Dark Ages, it is very difficult. The reason I'm saying when I read this and I threw my arms up is because I have the answer. I have the answer. We all have the answer to help us achieve moksha, salvation. But it is by far the hardest thing. By far the hardest thing to do. Now, if you come to me today and said you found inner peace, that is good for you. But I expect to see that inner peace be exuded every single time I see you. If you come in and you're in turmoil, guess what? You haven't found inner peace yet. We do these things all the time. I know my last example is that I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and it's not necessarily in the middle of the night. I'll be sitting down watching Warehouse 13 with Serena. And then all of a sudden we'll think about something that happened in the past. Can I use the example of I'm going to use the example so Serena was painting the Murtis here, and I was helping her and assisting her. And we had to take the jewelry off. And we had painted the Murtis, we left for that day. Probably a few days later, we're about to go to sleep. All of a sudden Serena jolts up. I left the jewelry out. The jewelry's sitting out. What if somebody steals it? I go, it's okay, dear. It's in the past. It's locked in the mandir. It's perfectly fine. Yes, somebody could break in. If they do, they're probably going to take all the jewelry off the Murtis instead of the one that's just sitting there. But something in her mind caused her turmoil and disrupted her inner peace. And it made you worry a little bit. I get worried about things all the time. Did we turn the stove off? Right? Is the AC still running? Is my computer on? Is the downstairs dry? We've had the basement flood once, and that almost destroyed all of our stuff downstairs. Some of my keepsakes. My old middle school yearbook got destroyed. One of my most prized, treasured possessions. I still have an attachment to a physical object in this world. It is the one letter that I got from my dad when he was stationed in Kuwait. That one letter had a little bit of water damage on it, and that upset me. Just a little bit. But that's one of my prized possessions. So to find inner peace, to understand that there's action and non-action and non-action and action, that is so hard. He goes on to state, finally in verse 21, Bhagwan Shri Krishna says to Arjuna, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama,
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Nirasirjita Chittatma Tyakta Sarva Paranaha Sariram Kevalam Karma Kuruan Apnuti Kilbhisam Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Bhagwan Shri Krishna states that there is the ability for you to not be affected by sinful reactions resulting from your karma, from your prescribed duties. Because there's some times that we will perform a duty, but there's going to be sin attached to that. There's a way that we cannot be affected by that sin while still performing our duties. He tells Arjuna specifically, one who can tune in next Sunday to our virtual morning satsang to hear the answer in verse 21 in chapter 4 of the Sri Bhagvat Gita will find the answer. Prem se Bolo Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki jai. Devotees, before we go on to our closing prayers, we'll have another bhajan and then we will return back.
जन मन रंजन भाव भय भंजन असुर निकंदन नारायण ओम नारायण भज नारायण ओम नारायण हरि हरि जन मन रंजन भाव भय भंजन असुर निकंदन नारायण ओम नारायण भज नारायण ओम नारायण हरि हरि जन मन रंजन भाव भय भंजन जब जब भीड़ परे भक्तन पर बार बार अवतार लिया बार मिटा कर धरती का गव ब्रह्मन का उद्धार किया कुंज बिहारी कृष्ण मुरारी गिरिवरधारी नारायण जन मन रंजन भाव मत्स्य कुर्मा वर है नारसिंह, हरि का वामन उतार लिया। परशुराम राम कृष्ण बन दुष्टों का संहार किया। हे अवतारी लीलाधारी, राउश बिहारी नारायण, जन मन रंजन भाव भय भंजन, असुर निकंदन नारायण। ओम नारायण भजु नारायण, ओम नारायण हरि हरि, जन मन रंजन भाव भय भंजन, जन मन रंजन भाव भय भंजन, जन मन रंजन भाव भय भंजन।
Devotees, I now ask that this time we all please clasp our hands. We close our eyes, we focus our minds on the feet of Bhagwan as we chant and offer these closing prayers. Om Sarvesham Swasti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shanti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Om Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu, Sarve Santu Niramayam, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschitha Tukabhag Bhavet, Om Mantrahinam Kriyahinam, Bhaktihinam Janardanam, Yatya Pujitam Maya Deva, Paripurnam Jarastu Me, Papoham Papo Karmaham, Papo Atma Papo Sambhava, Trahimam Pundari Kaksham, Sarva Papo Haru Hari. Om Tvameva Matascha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Mritam Gamaya, Hari Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Dhava Shanti, Antariksha Gum Shantir, Prithvi Shantir, Apa Shantir, Aushadaya Shantir, Vanaspati Shantir, Vishwadeva Shantir, Brahma Shantir, Sarvegum Shantir, Shantireva Shanti Sama, Shantireri, Hari Om Shanti, Shanti Shanti, Hari Om Tat Sat. Prem se bolo Ganesh Bhagwan ki Jai. Prem se bolo Adi Shakti Durga Mata ki Jai. Prem se bolo Vishnu Bhagwan ki Jai. Prem se bolo Shiva Shankar Bhagwan ki Jai. Prem se bolo Shiv Shakti Mandir ki Jai. Prem se bolo Sanatana Dharma ki Jai. Devotees, before we end and have a few words from our president, we will have one more bhajan, but I want to thank you all for joining us here today virtually for our Sunday morning satsang. As I kind of mentioned before, I actually haven't mentioned this before, I tried to take a poke at it. There are different obstacles in our world right now, one of them being a very physical obstacle, an obstacle that we can't see. And we're also offering prayer for those who are suffering from various illnesses, diseases, injuries, and ailments. The prevalence of COVID-19, of the coronavirus, has grown higher and higher and higher. I was actually reading a post about the growth of the cases just in Clark County alone, which is Athens, Georgia. We went from single digits one month to double digits another month to triple digits another month. At the beginning of July, they were at 500 cases, and at mid-July, they were at over 1,000. They doubled. The virus is still out there. It is still spreading. It is still prevalent. I ask and I urge you, and I plead to you, please be cautious. Wear a mask. Even if you've got the virus already, wear the mask to protect others. It's not so much about I'm safe and I'm not going to infect anybody else, but it's also about the image that you're portraying to others. Because you can't necessarily physically say, oh, I've already gotten the disease, you don't have to worry about it, I don't need to wear a mask. But if you wear that symbol, if you perform that action, what seems like inaction turns into a strong action. So I ask that you socially distance, be vigilant, be cautious, wear your mask, hand sanitize wherever you go, and perpetuate the health that we need amongst the community. Stay safe, stay vigilant, be happy, and I hope you have a safe and wonderful week. We'll have one more bhajan and then we'll close out.
राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, और शरण झुके बंदे भले पायो दावरे, और शरण झुके बंदे भलो पायो दावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे। जिने तो कुतन दियो ताकु ना भजन कियो, जिने तो कुटन दियो ताकु ना भजन कियो, जन्म बिताए जात उमर गवाए जात, राम गुण गावरे श्याम गुण गावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे। राम जी को बनदास छोड़ दे पराए आस, राम जी को बनदास छोड़ दे पराए आस, राम गुण गाए गाए कृष्ण गुण गाए गाए, राम को रे जावरे श्याम को मनावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे। जग में न कोई तेरा मान ले संतों का कहना, जग में न कोई तेरा मान ले संतों का कहना, सगरे जगत की सगरे जगत की, राम माई बाप रे श्याम माई बाप रे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, और शरण झुके बंदे भलो पायो दावरे, और शरण झुके बंदे भलो पायो दावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो बावरे, राम जपो राम जपो राम जपो
Sita Ram devotees, and again, thank you for joining us in our virtual satsang this morning. Thank Pandit Avi again for a wonderful job, and of course, our lovely producer, Serena, and our Lone Kirtan group singer. This week, Atlanta has lost two great civil rights heroes, as Mr. C.T. Vivian passed away the same day as Mr. Representative John Lewis. And I will tell you, in 2018 and 2019, I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Lewis in his office in Washington, D.C., in the halls of Congress. He's one of the most humble person I have met in my entire life. Atlanta and the world have lost a great hero in the civil rights movement for this country. Uh, Representative Lewis will be sorely missed. If you ever traveled through Atlanta Airport, last year we dedicated a tribute wall to Representative Lewis. It's in the airport atrium on the domestic terminal. I will urge you, take a few minutes, pause by the tribute wall and listen to his speeches and some of the memories and some of his experience that he have gone through in life, and it will stir the deepest emotion in you. It's just an awesome tribute wall that the Atlanta Airport have put together in concert with Representative Lewis and his team. So again, it's in the domestic terminal at the Atlanta Airport. As Pandit Avi said, COVID-19 cases in Georgia have just skyrocketed. Just at the start of July, Georgia had recorded 74,985 cases. As of yesterday, that nearly doubled. Georgia reported an average, a recorded positive case of 139,872. Just in 3 weeks, or a little less than 3 weeks, the number of cases in Georgia doubled in less than 3 weeks versus the past several months since they have been keeping track of this here. So we again urge you to maintain and take all the necessary safety precaution as recommended by the CDC and Public Health Department of the state of Georgia. If you don't have to go out, don't. If you do go out, take the appropriate, wear the appropriate PPE and stay safe. As usual, I've been saying this week in and week out. We do miss all of you. We do miss having congregational worship here at our mandir. The mandir renovation we have completed the mandir renovation, and it's just some cleaning up that needed to be done. We'll take our time and complete that. When we will open the mandir for congregational worship is unknown at this time, but we'll keep you updated, and we're hopeful that this virus will go into dormancy, or there's going to be a vaccine that will protect the general population from this virus, and then we could start gathering again in groups of more than 10, in large groups, without having to worry or fear of contracting this virus. Over the last couple of weeks, a number of our members have celebrated special events in their life. And so we would like to wish the following members of our community a happy birthday. And we'll start with Bahindru. We do miss you. I know you've been talking to Nidra. I hope the garden is growing well, and it's time to harvest all those veggie that you and your hubby have been so patiently taken care of. So, Bahindru, happy birthday from all of us. Master Vishal, our young adult here, Vishal, celebrated his birthday. And then young Jay also celebrated his birthday in the past couple of weeks. So happy birthday to the two of you. Our young attendee here at the Mandir, Mr. Eaton, he celebrated his birthday a couple of weeks ago. So Eaton, happy birthday to you. And then one of our more senior member who celebrated his birthday, by Walter, we want to wish you a happy birthday from all of us, and wish you much happiness and much health for many, many more years to come. So with that, again, we would like for all of you to stay safe out there, and that we do miss you very much, and want to wish you all much happiness, much prosperity, and hopefully we'll see you in the soon here at the Mandir. With that said, devotees, Jai Sita Ram, and have a great day.